Greetings fellow humans, I'm MartianBuu, and today's pocket video is on Tentacruel and Greninja. The idea behind this deck is to leverage two pretty decent non-EX attackers to deal lots of damage for minimal energy without giving up too many points in the process. Tentacruel has a really good attack and a decent amount of HP for stage 1 that deals 50 damage and poisons the defending Pokemon. While that's not a lot of damage up front, Greninja allows you to capitalize on it later on in the game. Its Water Shuriken ability deals 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, so if your opponent gets around Tentacruel's low damage cap by retreating a mostly knocked out Pokemon to the bench to escape giving up a point, Greninja can use its Water Shuriken to finish that off. One of the things I like most about this deck is that the attackers appreciate having a good Misty roll because they require 2 energy, but you don't fall incredibly behind if you don't get enough heads, because 2 energy is pretty reasonable. You can power up those Pokemon pretty efficiently without the help of Misty at all. So this was a pretty fun way to play water in Pokemon Pocket, and I think it's probably the second best way outside of the typical Starmie EX Articuno build. I hope you enjoy the games, and thank you so much for watching. Watch, this is gonna be the first time I actually like super high roll a Misty on the first turn, and it's when all I can do with it is slap. Look at this. If this had been an Articuno, it was GG. Disaster for the Marshy fans. You hate to see it. Oh. Okay. Cool. Charmander. Well, this is another situation where if we got a bunch of heads, it'd be really nice for us if we were playing a different version of Misty, but since it's not going to result in a knockout, I'd rather get basics, and we got one. Good for us. My basic attackers slap and flop. That's what we got going on. That's the weapons in our arsenal. Call me a Pokemon because I know how to flop. Alright, makes sense. Don't have X speed, that's cheating. Ah, the cheating, chat. It would be an absolute disaster for my opponent if I happened to have a Sabrina sitting in my hand here. You know what? It's a little less good considering what my opponent just did, and depending on how many hits my opponent gets on Inferno Dance here, I guess I'm not going to Sabrina after all. Alright. 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 Pretty pleased with this. I think I'll go ahead and Sabrina, considering my opponent was not talented enough to even get a single heads. Alright, you love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. If slapping and flopping are considered bad moves, then I understand why my girlfriend left me. No. Alright, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Well done. Alright. This video no longer makes it on YouTube. No, I think we're okay. I think we're still within realm. Now my opponent has that giant Charizard just sitting there. I question the move to not retreat that while it was a Charmeleon. I guess it was gonna get knocked out if it was a Charmeleon. But wouldn't you rather it get knocked out as a Charmeleon than as a Charizard? I don't know, chat. Seems questionable to me. Any Tarzan watchers? Is anyone ever gonna get that reference? I guess it still has 2 retreat cost, right? So they could find the other X speed and retreat it now. Not anymore. Does X speed see play in the paper game? I don't think it's ever had a paper card, actually. What sees play, well, like actually gets played in paper is Switch. It's just a card that says Switch. And you know what it does? It switches the active Pokemon to the bench. Yeah. That's an oldie but still playedy. So this is going to deal. Is it 1 shy? So it's 60 plus 20, right? Yep. We'll hit him with a Geo. And now I feel relatively confident in our victory. But yeah, there's a lot of good switching cards over the years. The ones that like enable you to retreat for less that see play are like, oh, I guess there's Rescue Board. Rescue Board is -1 retreat cost, and that sees play. But you attach that to a Pokemon and it has -1 retreat cost forever. You also can't stack them together because you can only have one of those things attached at a time. So it's like slightly different but similar. But then there's like Floatstone was really good. So that was the same type of card, a tool. It doesn't exist in Pocket. So it's basically an item that you can attach to a Pokemon instead of an item that is one-time use. So there's another one, Floatstone, that just changes it to 0 cost retreat. You attach it to the Pokemon, it has 0 cost retreat forever. And that saw a lot of play. There's so like Switch sees the most play because it's like the most generically useful, but they came out with one recently that's kind of ridiculous. It's called Switch Cart, and it switches just like Switch does, but only for a basic Pokemon, but it also heals the Pokemon for 30 when you do it. So it's like Switch with upside. It's very strange. So that card sees play in all of the decks that would play Switch but only have basic Pokemon in them because it's just strictly better than Switch. Then there have been a couple of cards that when they gust, they also you also get to switch. So there's a supporter that like could pick one of your opponent's Pokemon and move it active, and you also switch one of your Pokemon. There's an A-Spec trainer card that does that now. Oh, there was also Escape Rope, which is very uniquely experiencing a time in Pokemon where it's not getting any play. It's switch, but it also forces your opponent to switch. So it's like if Sabrina was an item that also let you switch afterwards. I have a couple of different ways to win this turn. I think I'm going to choose Greninja because we haven't gotten to play with that yet. Ah, opponent just concedes. I see how it is. At some point, you could make a video on the different cards that see play in Pocket and Paper. You know what I've been putting off this whole time that I haven't done yet? Is a video on like 10 items I'd like to have added to Pocket. I really should just do it. And I could do the same thing for supporters, and I could do the same thing for like Pokemon and stuff like that. And just talk about how they'd have to be different in the different style of game. But yeah, I've noticed that like my Pocket channel, like my Hearthstone channel is very used to gameplay, and what they want to see is gameplay. The Pocket channel is used to nothing. So what they want to see is has so far tended to be me talking. Like things where I'm talking tend to do just better than gameplay on the Pocket channel. So it wouldn't take me too much to come up with 10 items that I think would be good for Pocket. You know, like that would be like half an hour of me sitting down and looking through old items. I already know a few off the top of my head that I'd love. And then I just need to put those in a way that I can like do a slideshow of them and just talk about how they'd be good for Pocket. It's like, it's super easy video. I just have to get around to doing it. I think it would work well. Where are my frogs and squids? You're talking to us better too? It would be nice to have a Pokeball for a fossil. They had stadiums and supporter cards that do that. My favorite stadium that that interacts with fossil Pokemon is the one that skips the fossil part entirely. There's one that like you can search your deck for two, or search your deck, search your discard pile, something like that, for two Pokemon that I think it's restored Pokemon. I think it's when they were doing the restore mechanic, but basically two Pokemon that evolve from fossils. And just put them right on your bench, like skipping the whole fossil aspect entirely. That's one of my favorites of those. They also, okay, my actual real favorite fossil card ever is like rewind 20 years. This is a 2002 card, I think. Oh man, it's not even 20 years. That's 22 years ago. That's crazy. Time flies, chat. But anyways, there's a card called Buried Fossil, and it had 30 HP, which at the time was actually an improvement. The original Mysterious Fossil, the first fossil that ever came out for Pokemon, it had 10 HP and was not very good. But like, it stopped play because Kabulix. But anyways, 10 HP is not a lot. So when the Buried Fossil came out and it had 30 HP, it was like, wow. And its effect was actually kind of a disaster that we got both of those Misty Tails, huh? Unluckers. Well, I guess I'm gonna flop and slash. But it was a Pokemon, it wasn't an item. So that they weren't called items back then, but it functioned like an item. Mysterious Fossil, it was just called a trainer card. And so it suffered from the same problem. It wasn't as easily searched as Buried Fossil, but then Buried Fossil came out and you could search for Buried Fossil because it was a Pokemon. 10 HP. What was the next highest damaging move? Was 5 energy for 40? What next? The highest damaging move was 5 energy for 40. It wasn't quite that bad. Wasn't quite that bad, but you know, you're not too wrong. All right, so I'm gonna Sabrina, and I'm gonna knock out that Metapod while it's a Metapod. I'm gonna do my little Water Shuriken chip on the Lilligant here. And then if they don't have any healing miraculously, we'll be able to just get them next turn, and then I'll be good. Wasn't the first Aerodactyl also kind of nice? Oh yeah, that did see play. The first Aerodactyl was the first fossil Pokemon to see play. That's true. What I'm thinking of is the second Kabutops, which was also early, but the Kabutops was more meta than the Aerodactyl was, but the Aerodactyl was good, right? Like it would see play. So the Aerodactyl, while it was out, Pokemon couldn't evolve. So if you're running an all basics deck, you could play the Aerodactyl and prevent your opponent from evolving. So that was pretty good. Except that all the good decks were basic decks anyway. So you were teching against a favored matchup by putting the Aerodactyl in. So I think the Aerodactyl is probably even less good looking back on it. Like, it was probably because the meta was young back then, right? You could get away with playing silly things, so sometimes people would play stuff that had evolutions, and like the Wigglytuff was relevant, but really, you know, that it's not worth it. So there was probably a lot of jank in tournaments back then. In fact, I know there was a lot of jank in tournaments. So the Aerodactyl probably functioned for its time a lot better than it should have, if that makes sense. But if you like actually ran a retro tournament today, Aerodactyl would be unplayable, I think, because like evolutions are unplayable. So from like base through fossil. But yeah, my whole point is that the Kabutops was actually a good deck. Like the Kabutops from Kabutops Steelix, that was like a real good deck. Whereas the Aerodactyl was kind of a good card that wasn't in a meta that needed it. And like, you know, the effect is good because you fast forward 15 years and put that ability on the Archeops and that card gets banned. You know, like once the game had ironed out its inability, you know, like the early Pokemon was very, very fixated on basics, right? Like it, not fixated on it, but like the way the cards were set up very much benefited Pokemon that could attack right now. And like Pokemon that had to be powered up or had to evolve were at a huge disadvantage. But once that changed, evolution started to be good. And so if you put Aerodactyl's ability in a time where evolutions are good, you know, it becomes problematic. First Kabutops was absolute garbage. Yeah, it was so bad. The first Kabutops, it was like, wasn't it like 4 for something stupid like 20? And then no, it wasn't 20, right? Like it had to be more than that. But like it allowed you to heal half the damage you did. Oh, it's 4 for 40. Yeah. Remove a number of damage counters from Kabutops equal to half the damage you did to the defending Pokemon. But like, okay, so this is a stage 2 that requires you to evolve initially from a 10 HP basic that you can't even search for because it's an item, not a basic Pokemon. And this is a stage 2 that evolves from that. How much HP to take advantage of 4 energies? All right, you have to, this is a fighting Pokemon. You have to hard cast each and every one of those energy. All right, 4 for 40, heal half for 20. That's its big attack. How much HP would you give a Pokemon like that with all of those conditions? How much HP would you give that? If you know, don't say it. Does anyone want to guess how much HP? Like if you were gonna actually, like the max is like, this is 60 HP, you can spell it? Yeah, I bet you can. I bet you've seen the card before. But yes, it's ridiculous, right? So the max HP for a Pokemon back then was 120, right? Very few Pokemon had it, but like evolved Pokemon typically had, you know, 80 and north of 80, right? Like if they were stage 2, right? They had like 100 health most of the time. This Kabutops had 60 HP on a stage 2, which was by far the lowest, right? Nothing had less than that. I think Butterfree had 70, and that was incredibly low. Kabutops being a stage 2 with that abysmal attack and having to evolve from a Pokemon that you can't search for through you know, conventional means other than computer search, that only had 10 HP is just preposterous. It's ridiculous. But yeah, 60 HP. Poor thing. Poor Kabutops. I wish I could show you. I don't have my Pocket like stream set up in such a way that I could drag over a web browser. So I think I need to work on that, I guess. I could do it pretty easily, right? All I'd have to do is capture my monitor instead of capturing the game. I could do that. This was a different world. It really was. But like, that's back when they weren't, they were just making cards, right? They weren't like thinking about what the right balance of things was for a card. They were just, you know, like, hey, let's print this card. How much health should it have? I don't know. Not a very popular Pokemon. Let's just put it at 60. That'll be fine. Right. Like, I don't know what well, I think they might have been afraid of the healing, but like everything one-shot 60 HP, right? Not everything, but like, I don't know. 60 HP is not a good breakpoint. First of all, Wigglytuff knocks that out in one hit, right? Like, do the wave, one hit. So it's not like the Kabutops can survive a popular Pokemon like Wigglytuff that does 60 damage and then heal it off with the Absorb move. That thing could have healed for double the damage it dealt with Absorb, and it still would have been the worst card ever printed. So that's my story about that. I guess I'll send this up. I don't think I'm going to need a second Tentacruel. Well, this Tentacruel's poison damage really did work on this Mewtwo, huh? Look at this. So they're going to take 60 back to their turn. Oh, thank goodness. All right. Maybe I should have evolved the Healthy Frogadier, huh? Or Healthy Froakie. I think that would have made more sense. You know what they say, chat? Oops. It's also weak to grass, so it died from one Scyther Slash. Oh, that's a good point, yeah. Watching money roll in and slapping numbers on cards, yeah. Also, Japan was doing this and they had never done a card game before, right? Wizards was just publishing. Yeah, it was like I cut Magic a lot of slack because they're like card game pioneers, right? Like no one did it before them, so you know, even though the reserve list was a catastrophically bad decision to make for their game, you can't be too mad because, like, you know, somebody had to balance collecting versus playability when it comes to cards. But anyways, yeah, I really wish I'd powered up the other Froakie, but it's too late now. I don't know what I was thinking. Gonna be trouble if, because I don't have an evolve form and I don't have any energies in play, right? So like, well, Sabrina. So they're forced to send up Haunter, which means if they don't have a Gengar, I can just knock it out on the bench. And hopefully what happens is they can't attack with Gardevoir this turn. So we'll see. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so like, Pokemon was after, but it wasn't that much after. So like, I don't think that the balancing was perfect on Magic by that point either, you know, so it's not like Pokemon deserves that much extra space necessarily. So they're going to deal 100 damage to me, and I'm going to have dealt 80 to them. I can't Giovanni out of it. I can only... Okay. I do this. I send up the... Tentacruel. If I draw Tentacruel, I attach an energy to it. If I draw Frogadier, I can retreat Tentacruel and knock out with a Frogadier. That's my line. Six left. There's got to be one of those two. Off the top, let's go for the win. Nutty. All right, we got there, chat. We solved it. We fixed it. Boop. In a way, I find it kind of sad how streamlined games are nowadays. There's something charming about janky stuff that's terribly balanced. Yeah, I do think that, like, there's definitely a happy medium between having every card be like top down intended to go with specific synergies in a set, and like balancing everything with a dice, you know, like, because the Kabutops has no business being balanced that way, right? Like, they should have known better than to give that thing 60 health. But like, I don't need everything to be like Mew V Max either, right? Like, I don't. The Mew VMAX deck was incredibly scripted, right? Like, you run the Mew V, and you run all those Genesect, and the deck just builds itself from there. You know, like, it's not quite that simple, but it's pretty simple. But things don't have to be top-down scripted, but like, they don't have to be rolled dice either. You know, like, I like it more when individual Pokemon are designed to be kind of interesting, and then the player is left to figure out the rest of it. You know, the Terapagos list is cool, but like, Terapagos is built to be played with Terapagos and Noctowls and Bouffalant, right? That deck came together because it was intended to be together. Baby Mewtwo. How many marks do I have? I haven't really been keeping track. I would have guessed that I've marked 3 games. It's probably been more than that. I could check. Let me do that. Who knows how many games we played? Apply for the partner front page as a Twitch partner. It'd be cool to go on the front page. The timers to open packs take forever. What level am I on? I'm actually not 100% sure. Is that something I can check easily? Yeah, they do. So like, I did the thing where I played in advance. You know, you go to New Zealand, wink wink, and play. You know, like, I played that month, the month that only people who were from New Zealand could play. So I have that like extra month of progress, and then I've been playing since it came out too. So like, I haven't missed a pack in a couple months. So I actually very recently, just this morning, got my last functional copy of a card. Like, I now have a version of every card in the game. I don't have every card there is to get, and I don't have 2 copies of everything, but like, I could put any one card in the game in a deck as of today. So yeah, it's a little slow. I've waited weeks for second Wigglytuff. Who else on the waiting room? Unlucky. It was Baby Machamp that was my last most elusive one, and that was like 2 or 3 weeks of I had already gotten everything else or more. Like, it feels like forever since I've like been hunting for a card. It's just kind of been like, oh yeah, I know I don't have that one. If I see it in the Wonder Trades, I'll try to pick it up. But yeah, I wasn't gonna build a Baby Machamp deck, so it wasn't a rush. The last thing I'm trying to get is Full Art Wheezing. Full Art Wheezing is the last of that like low tier of like fancy art Pokemon that I don't have yet. Once I have that, I'll complete that secret mission, and then everything that I can like reasonably expect to obtain, I will have obtained. But like, I'm not gonna like ever expect to complete all of the rainbow birds or anything like that, or you know, I haven't pulled a single gold yet. I've pulled barely any of the full arts, like not the full art EXs, not the illustration EXs or anything like that, but like the base full art one. I've pulled like 3 of them, and I think I've pulled 3 full art supporters. So like, I think I have a Giovanni, a Brock, and something stupid. Giovanni, Brock, and a Lieutenant Surge. Those are the 3 I have. So like, in all this time I've been playing, 2 straight months of opening packs, that's all the progress I've made on that. How am I ever supposed to get play sets of those cards, much less collect all of them? So like, I'm not gonna like ever expect. I've seen a full art in the Wonder Trades once. I saw Sabrina full art one time, and I check that like a couple of times a day, every day. I used to check it way more. I used to check it like every hour. But the rarity is too low for me to like want to collect those things. But the little basic ones, you get like a little secret mission reward when you collect them all. Weezing's the last one I need of those. Delta Species era artwork was your favorite? Delta Species was my favorite mechanically. This is my favorite art era. I think I like original art the best, honestly. Like, no, Wizards of the Coast era is definitely my favorite artwork era for Pokemon. I think I liked the template of the cards the best. And that's like really hard carrying it. Also, I don't know if this is true of the Japanese version of cards as well, but like as far as English cards are concerned, the foiling on the cards was almost exclusively like Wizards did it better than modern Pokemon. Like the way a foil card looks, there's just something about the Wizards of the Coast era that's just better, and that extends all the way through the E-card series. But I do like the templating on the E-card series, I think, more than the original templating. But either way, Wizards of the Coast era, as far as the way a card looks, and the art on the cards was good too. Delta, like the Ruby Sapphire era, that era I think has the worst templating, right? Other than maybe Current. Current is really awkward for me because they chose to switch out the yellow border for a silver border. And when me as a veteran Pokemon and Magic player, when I see silver border, I think not legal in tournaments. So it's very weird that they suddenly switched to this silver border that they're using even in Pokemon Pocket, right? Like up until very recently, that was a yellow border for 30 years, like however long it's been. So yeah, I don't like that. But the original template I think was nice. I really don't like the way that it's like the Ruby Sapphire was when they started making things overly thin, right? So like I like the thicker borders of the Wizards of the Coast era. It's also weird because they did silver borders on the world's decks to show non-legality, right? That's what I was talking about, like, means not legal. Like, silver border used to mean a very specific thing, and now it doesn't. It's very strange. It's not even a good color, like, I don't know, maybe it's fine. I like the yellow better. But I think a black would work better than this. Like if you wanted to change it, I'd rather have a black border. All right, Misty, save me, please. Give me that one heads. One heads, it's all I need. Just one more heads, Misty. Save the world. Yay! All right, you did what you were asked to do. They don't call me Martian accepts the bare minimum that he asked for, boo, for nothing. You did great. It's funny since Magic did the opposite and made their previously silver border cards black border. Did they? Were alpha cards silver border? Because I know that No, right? Alphas were black. Alpha magic card. Yeah, they got black borders. And like they do silver borders for non-tournament legal cards too. Uncards were silver border previously to show non-legality. Oh, I see. Well, I have 2 Tentacruel and 2 Frogadier in my hand. That's all I need. Cuban. Misty, let's go. That's not Misty. But it could find a Misty. It didn't, but it could have. Another Froakie? Perfect. All right. Top deck Misty, and this is a game of all time. Am I on a win streak? Not sure. Probably not. Doesn't sound like me. You know, maybe I should have expected this to become a Marowak and then knock out my Tentacruel. I'll just do this. Why not? I'm getting my wife some Lorcana cards for Christmas. She is a collector. How good is the game itself? I think it's really good. It's for me, it's the perfect level of game to play with my wife. I feel like it's Hearthstone if Hearthstone was paper. Like, it's that level of complexity. So like, I really like the game. I just don't like the price. My problem with Lorcana is 100% the price and nothing else. Well, okay, I take that back. The one other thing that I don't like about Lorcana is they errata a card drastically instead of just banning it. Not a fan of like drastically erratating a card that you could just ban. It's a little bit different in Pokemon, I think, because of when they choose to errata something and how they choose to errata something. Like, Potion is like an iconic IP card, right? So like they wanted to update it to be more modern viable, so they increased the amount it heals by 1. I guess the like relatively pointless gesture, but because the card still sucks. But so like what did they do to Bucky in Lorcana? Like, didn't they increased its mana cost, they got rid of a keyword, and then they changed the functionality of when it discards, right? Like, they changed 3 different things about the card, and oh my goodness, my opponent sucks! You're supposed to get heads! What are they doing over there? They must know you're supposed to get heads. Did I use my water shuriken on my last? I think I might have been consumed about Bucky. Like, did I even use water shuriken? I don't know. But anyways, there's a card in Lorcana that they like. So an errata in Pokemon looks like Potion heals 20, and now it heals 30. All right. Pokemon Catcher is choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and make it the active Pokemon. And they errated that to require a coin flip because that was turbo broken. And they wanted Pokemon Catcher to be the new baseline for Gust items, I guess. So anyways, they did that. It still does the same thing. It just requires a coin flip, and they print a ton of cards, like a ton of new versions of Pokemon Catcher with intent to keep printing them on into the future, right? Like, it's a long-term decision they make with that errata. But the errata on Bucky, let me see if I can pull it up. This is old Bucky and new Bucky. They didn't just change one thing to make it slightly different and update it for modern times, right? Like, they took its mana cost and they added a mana cost onto it. That alone would have been okay. I mean, not great, really. For a paper card game, you really just want to ban things, right? It's not like it's Hearthstone, but still, you know, like, fine. But they also look, if you look at the one on the right, it doesn't have a keyword that the one on the left has. So, like, they took a keyword off of it, right? And then, on top of that, so the first one reads, when you play a Floodborn character, each opponent chooses and discards a card. The one on the right reads, whenever you play a Floodborn character, if you used Shift to play it, each opponent chooses and discards a card. So like, they took a keyword off, they made it a mana more expensive, and they also changed how the like text unique to the card works, right? You require that extra layer. So it's like, it's a completely new card. It's like brand new, brand spanking new card. Like not at all like the old one. So how are you supposed to keep track of that? Like if you don't know what Potion does, at least like if you play Potion, you know, like an old copy of Potion, and you heal for 20 and your opponent's like, you know, that actually got updated, it heals for 30 now. You're like, it's pretty easy to follow that, right? But you play Bucky, your old version of Bucky, and then your opponent's like, yeah, that actually took one more ink for you to play, and then you pay her one more ink because you believe them, and then they target it with something and they're like, wait, it has words. Like, nah, they actually took that keyword off. And I don't know, it's such a really silly decision. That's the end of the video. Bye.